like, I was there like, who wants to play with me? Who wants to play? I'm like, I'm not defeat me. Yeah, exactly. But I don't think I never had that one moment I thought I'm a leader. It's not the one biggest or the fastest who won. It's the ones who can adapt to the ever-changing environment. Whatever decision I make, I always think my daughter's face. And if I can face her with that decision, I'm in a good place.
Okay, and welcome back to another episode of the FLT podcast. Today we're joined by Celine Pasula, the Managing Director for Ubisoft RedLynx. How are you feeling, Celine?
Really good.
Good, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
As always, we've prepared an introduction. Annalie, would you do the honours?
Yeah, sure. Celine, in 2011, Ubisoft acquired RedLynx, and since 2021, you have been the Managing Director of Ubisoft RedLynx, as Mark said. Prior to your current role, you have worked in several gaming companies ranging from startups to bigger studios. Among them are companies such as Fingersoft, Grand Cru, and Mr. Good Living. Ubisoft RedLynx, with its about 140 employees, is based in Helsinki and is part of Ubisoft, which is an almost 20,000 employee strong global game creator, publisher, and distributor. Celine, you talk a lot about the leader's role in breaking silos, fostering cross-cultural collaboration, and enabling teams to work together for a shared goal. You have expressed a need in the gaming industry for leaders who can foster and create psychological work safety. According to you, psychological work safety does not equal a yes mentality where everybody would just nod and agree. It means that also different or contradicting opinions need to be expressed and heard. You have said that this is a prerequisite to the well-being of our employees and the organization. In the gaming industry, you are known as a fearless leader who is not afraid of introducing new unexplored genres to Ubisoft RedLynx portfolio. Would you describe yourself as fearless? And if so, where do you get your courage?
Oh my God. No, I would not say that about myself. I think, a lot of my thinking about the leadership comes also from the biology, and I love using the evolution theory and comparison many often. I think from that way, I would say that fear has something to tell us always. So I don't like to think about me being fearless. I want to listen when I feel I fear something. But I think I would describe myself more like a quite value-driven leader. And then I would also maybe use the word transparency, because I think that's really critical for me, and also about the communication and all that, how we make sure that everybody really feel that they are empowered to thrive at the workplace. I think that's where we need to make sure that actually happens. So I think that's why we need the transparency. So yeah, I think maybe the fearless no, but maybe value-based, I would say.
Thank you.
And how about your courage? Because fearless or not, there's definitely courage there, right?
Well, that I am quite humble, but actually, but that's a nice word, and I would like to think that comes from the having clear values, how I want to lead, and I think that's where so I want to do the right thing, and that's really important for me. So some might call it courage or something else, but I think that's what I believe in. So it's just like, I think one of the major things that makes good leaders is that knowing yourself, and I think that comes really from the courage also, and the values you know yourself.
Can I ask, because you kind of drawing from evolutionary biology, where does a typical gamer stand on this evolutionary scale?
Oh my
of human
God, what a
beings?
question! I think
Is it something more advanced than normal Homo sapiens, or
no. I think
or is it kind of
if you talk from the players' perspective, I would say that when I joined the industry, totally by accident, by the way, I never planned to be working in the video games company, but here I am after quite many years. I think 18 today, but I think what I have really seen in the happening in the industry that when I joined, the players were mainly coming from one category, and it was more like maybe young male players who played games and quite hardcore games also. And then what I see today, everybody are players. And I think there's game for everybody who wants to, and there's devices for everybody that they can play at. So it has changed so much so fast. So I would say that I would use the evolution theory there because like it demands a lot from the video games companies. How do we adapt so fast to this ever-changing market? I think that's super fascinating. So now I would say who are the players? It's everybody around us. They don't maybe call themselves players. They might be playing like some of the games in a daily basis, but it's more entertainment for them, and they don't call themselves hardcore players per se.
Good answer, yeah. Celine, you already started describing your kind of leadership approach. So as I understand, you're one of few leaders, female leaders in gaming industry. So how would you describe, maybe elaborate a bit more on your kind of leadership approach? So what are the key principles besides following your values? What else?
I always believe in, of course, as I said, the transparency and communication. And I think kind of making sure that actually happens is my key role. So I think my job is to make sure that the individuals can really shine and teams can shine. I focus a lot on teams these days. So that's critical for me, making sure that they have what they need to be able to do what they are expected to do, of course, and achieve those goals that we have agreed to together. Not only achieving them, but how we actually achieve them also is critical for me. So making sure that it's inclusive and a good place to work for everybody also. But still, through that, we can achieve the goals we have agreed on and aligned on together. So that's critical. So I would say quite focused on the communication and making sure that the workplace is good for everybody. That's why I really like this psychological work safety, what I have been using now, because I think it's critical that we understand where this feeling of safetyness comes, also at the work context, and that's critical for me.
Is there anything specific to this gaming industry and leadership that you would say it kind of really applies only to this context, or is more generic kind of leadership challenge?
I'm trying to be biased to that yeah, because sure. I have been working on this industry so long, but I think it really comes from. I go back to when I started in this industry, and it goes back that it was kind of all the gaming companies were founded, and the employees were coming like tiny group of people who basically knew each other in Finland, and that was kind of there wasn't that much diversity in by any means, I would say. And when we started actually growing as an industry and the market, it changed so much. So I think there was a lot of people who were really passionate. They were the gamers themselves. They were the players. They were I heard this so often that I want to make the games that I always wanted to play. That was kind of the key. And now what I see today in the industry in general is that there's a lot of people who are really, they are not maybe the gamers themselves, but they want to create the best experience for the players. And that is, it has grown so much. It has matured so much, the whole industry. But also the employees and the people who work in this industry has evolved. And of course, there's more education now for the people who want to work on the video games. And as I said, everybody are players today. So it means that we need all kind of people making those games and experiences for the players also. So it has changed a lot, I would say, in that context.
It must be quite difficult, though, right? So if you have like a sort of a traditional gamer core that's trying to build the games, and you introduce them to psychological safety with all of their passion, surely there's, 1,000 really loud opinions all at once. Practically, how does it work, or maybe what's the role of the leader if you think about trying to harness that passion in a way that doesn't exclude people who might just want to improve the player experience or the game experience?
Of course, and that's what, for sure, there's always thousands of opinions, I would say. But I think it's really critical that we make sure exactly how it happens. And that's why I want to also focus on the how. And we make sure that we have we understand our values in a similar way. We understand how we do think in a similar way. That's why we put a lot of effort on aligning on this, and we have code of conduct we do in a regular basis and all these kind of things. I think these are really important, that we have a place for that conversation and we keep doing it, because when you can say your values are, for example, in general, you can say honesty is value.
Yeah.
But when you say honesty, it means quite different things for many different people. Yeah. So you need that conversation. So how do you see it? What does it mean for you? And then what does it mean for your team? What does it mean for your company? So we put a lot of time on this conversation and making sure that actually that discussion is happening. And then, of course, at some point we have to say that this is what we believe in, this is how we do things. And I think that's also where it's really tightly connected to psychological safety and psychological work safety. Because can you be passionate in 9 to 5? That's a good question, and yes. So I think it's really critical that we also understand that it makes us. I believe personally, for example, that it makes me better leader when I have my other things also in life, and I get that energy to be better leader, and it also keeps the context, and I think it keeps my thinking in a right level. And it's quite well researched also that people can't really maybe have that wide perspective if they are thinking solely focused. And then I think also if we think from the neuroscience perspective, your brain's if you don't feel that safetyness, you can't think the wider context. So that's why I believe that the psychological safety is so key to understand it and have it. So you need that balance. You need the other things in your life also. That balance is that. But I know it's sometimes hard. I mean, you have many things to do. You have group of people who are, of course, looking up to your leadership, and how do you do it? But it's not easy.
I mean, like you mentioned, that it's not, psychological safety doesn't mean yes, right? It means that it means actually there's going to be more disagreements.
Yes.
Do you find yourself often arbitrating disagreements or standing in the middle, or is it really just about making the space for everyone to...
So there's a lot of discussion for sure, and I think that's key. Yes, I definitely think it's making a space and having that conversation, and that's what we want also, because if we think about the diversity in of course, like any kind of diversity we might have, it also means that usually there needs to be more discussion to make sure that everybody understands each other better. If you have two quite similar people, the conversation might be much more straightforward because they might come from the same background and they have a same view on the world. Then you have third person who comes from totally different place and has totally different view on the world. How do you make that happen? It means you have to talk even more. And I think this is something that we don't fully understand in general yet, that how much more you need that communication. And I think someone smart once said that the biggest bias of communication is that you think it existed, and I think that's so true. I think it's true, and you always think that it's clear, it's not. So yes, we want that conversation, but at the same time, at some point, we also have to say that this is what we believe in, and this is the frames we work inside, and you need that agreement, and it's also disagree and commit at some point. So, but we want to hear that, but it's also really critical that we say that, okay, no, this is not how we do things. And yes, this is how we do things. But I think everybody needs that place to tell and say what they think. And I think that's where the safety feeling comes from also, that people feel that they can voice their opinions. But at some point it has to be also accepted and agreed and aligned. And that's, of course, that has to happen also, because otherwise it's a chaos, as you said. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, psychological safety is also about contribution. So sharing, listening to others, as you said, but also contributing to the work of others. I don't know how games are done. I have no idea, but I would assume that there's some coding involved, and I have created this fabulous code, and it's mine, and I have, I'm the owner. I have at least the mother right to it. And how do you make people share and open up in such a way that others can contribute to it?
So it's of course the teamwork. Games we make today, well, most of them. I mean, like, of course, you can make smaller games and with one or two people and totally doable with the current also how the platforms work and everything. It's even doable. But the context of I'm talking now is of course the level of games we do at Ubisoft. So they are not made by individuals; they are made by teams. Sometimes teams are also quite big. So that's of course what you actually explained has to happen. So they have to work towards the shared goals, and they have to understand it in a similar way. And of course, there's a lot of individuals who shine and make things happen, but we still think them these as a teams, and they have to work together because you need also art, for example. It's not, and you need the design. You have to make it all work. So one thing can't do it all, and that's really critical. Right. And that's why we need to make sure that also those conversations happens also in a team level, not only in a leadership level, but also in a team level. And there has to be alignment on that. What is the vision for the game? And all that has to happen. So it's the same thing.
How do you make sure if you have set goals, as you mentioned, how do you make sure that those goals are not restricting the creativity of the team and the collaboration and the co-creation and all that, what you probably need within the team, that they are not restricting that, but actually allowing a certain amount or a good amount of that?
Of course, that's like, I would say, conversations again. I would say that has to happen. But at some point, of course, thing has to be thought that, okay, this is what we do. We will do that and see what the players think and then continue from that. But it's also like so much about, of course, listening our players and seeing the reaction from them is critical part of making games in general in the whole industry, I would say, in the video games these days. It's quite different what you can get from the data perspective, for example, and all that. So, of course, we want to create the best experience as possible for the players, and then but there's quite many great games out there, and so I think it's also like what is the new thing we are doing and what is the vision for this project and so on. So conversation, a lot of conversations, but also again I would say at some point we have to decide this is what we go for, and then that has to be done. And the commitment also has to be there at some point. And if you just try to innovate everything from the beginning every day, that's a chaos again. So, so we need that.
Yeah, I have a question actually, maybe still to continue this topic. So about motivation. So I recall in early days when I was also involved in some way in this coding scene. I mean, you will go to any gaming company, it will be like, there'll be a fridge of beer and there'll be a few guys in the open space just, sitting and playing games, doing stuff that they would like to play, right? So then you said that the industry matured and now they're supposed to develop something that not necessarily they would like to play, but what, customers would like to have and play. So what kind of motivation do you find for these guys? I mean, what motivates them nowadays? And I think it's a common kind of challenge for any creative industry, right? When you don't do something for yourself, but actually for somebody else.
Well, I mean, like that's a really good question, first of all, but also a really wide question. So I think it really depends of the teams and how they work together. I think the motivation can come from multiple different things, to be honest. But I think I think that's where I would go back to psychological safety. I mean, like, I think you have to share the same way of working in some level and shared goal. And I think when you see that you can achieve things, I think in general that brings motivation, of course. And you have to be able to do that from the healthy place. So it's critical, but I I think there's so many different ways to approach the creativity, to be honest. Some people might be really, and this is industry in general, I would say, but I think some people might find the motivation that they see smile in the player's face. They're like, oh, they really enjoy the game. And that was their mission, to bring the best experience. And then some people might be like, I want to make the best game I never played myself. That still might be the motivation for some people. I think it's just what has to be happened is that it's a shared goal and shared understanding what we are going after. And then, of course, as I said, it's a teamwork. If everybody comes from a different place, at some point they have to decide what's the direction we are going. So, but people have so many different motivations. And I also, what I mentioned earlier is that there's more education now in the industry. Back in the days when I joined the industry, there wasn't really. So you weren't able to educate yourself, at least in Finland, that much. And now there is education, so people can actually do that from the perspective, not just playing games, but actually educating themselves and meeting the like-minded people who want to also be professionals at making games and developing them together. So it has changed a bit, I would say.
Is there a lot of competition within teams as well? Because I want to write a better code than you and so on.
I think there's always competition on some level in like who's the better leader. I mean, like I think how do you measure it and so on. But we try to. That's where the breaking silos comes in the picture. That you want to make sure that these teams are also talking to each other, sharing the learnings and the knowledge, and that's super critical that happens. If they work in a silos, they're like, oh, don't come and watch my code or whatnot. That's not good. So we want to make sure that we still work as a one company and share all the learnings. And I think I proudly said I think we are quite far with that. But it's also a tiny bit in the industry that we come quite siloed place. So there used to be companies who only did the console games or who only did the PC games or only did the mobile games. And the approaches were quite different. So I think also breaking silos between those are really critical. Yeah, but I think I see it as like, let's learn together and let's make sure that if there's a project that we have a good learning from, let's share with everybody. And it's not the failure. It's really about the learning and not repeating at least the same thing what we did. We saw it's not working. So I always want to go back to learning, and I think that's for me personally. I think the biggest learnings has been like I have failed on something. I'm like, no, I never do it that way again. Maybe I do the next another mistake, but at least not in a similar way. So how can we share those learnings together is critical.
Was there a specific time or leader or event where you had the aha moment that, okay, the psychological safety and dialogue is like the way to lead? Or was it over time?
No, I think it's both a bit. I think everybody has those moments that they really think that it really changed themselves. I think for sure for the diversity and inclusion discussion, I had like this one specific moment. I was in a meeting. My daughter was really little then, and I asked, can I take her with my business trip because I didn't get the babysitter. And I was like, okay, I want to take her with me. And then I took her to the meetings, and they were like, okay, this is fine. But then after the meeting, she said to me like, Mom, why were you the only woman? You were only woman in the room. I was like, oh my God, like I got these goosebumps, and I was like, not in a good way. Yeah. And I was like, this is insane that I'm getting so blind to this myself. And I didn't even notice that anymore. But I think she was 5 then. And like, she's so much smarter sometimes than I am, I have to say. And I was like, this is insane that she comes. And I was like, it really struck me. I was like, I'm getting blind. And I think that was one of the moments that really told me that we get so easily used to things how they are, and I think this is like why you need to keep your head in the right place in the wider picture and in that vision, and that's why you need the work-life balance, because if you don't have it, you narrow your mind so much. It's just how we work as humans, and we haven't changed that much, to be honest. If we think about the humans, we are still quite same from that perspective. So we have to fight against that, and I think leaders has a really important role on that, like showing that you can be a role model and you can also do things and kind of focus on the right things. So I think that's where it comes from. But that was definitely one of my moments that I felt that, okay, I don't want to do that again and be in that place that my daughter has to tell me that, Mom, did you notice this? I'm like, So one of my values actually comes from this. So whatever decision I make, I always think my daughter's face. And if I can face her with that decision, I'm in a good place. So so it's not putting any pressure on her. But I think it tells me a lot about my values. And
here's a 2024 roadmap. What do you think?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. But I think it comes from like this, like that are you living through your values and are you true to them?
So if work-life balance is so important, are you the one who walks around the office at 5 o'clock in the evening and like kicking everyone out? Go home.
I hope I don't kick anybody, but I mean, like, I think it's also something that we also want to respect that, for example, at our company, we work in different time zones. We are a global company, so we also have to trust people, and I think it really comes that we put a lot of effort on the leadership and managerial work. So, but we also have to support this, that someone might be different, working in a time with different time zones than you are, and I think we have to respect that, and we also want to give some flexibility for the people. Some people are more morning people, some are less. So I think it's also something we want to accept. So when we say the 9 to 5, I would say that we also want to give that trust and flexibility for the teams, that how they want to work, and then of course we need some similar common guidelines. It's sometimes easy to judge people when you see like, oh, they are still here 5:30, but it might be that they came in later or something. So we also have to accept that. So it's also supporting different ways of working. Critical thing.
Do the teams come together on a regular basis, face-to-face, or is it okay to have fully virtual teams working together?
Now after COVID, I think my answer has changed a bit, but so yes, we believe you need that face-to-face time with the team, and that also comes from many of the people that they want to see their teammates, and they want to see the whole team there at the same time, and I think that also brings part of that psychological work safety, that you actually see people you work with, but of course there's a lot of companies also who do fully remote, and I think that's how the companies are structured. So it's really depends on like how companies are structured, but I believe that we need that face-to-face time also, and we give a lot of flexibility and independency for the teams, how they do things, and then again we want to make sure that we still have shared rules and values how we follow, but then inside those frames we give flexibility, like when do they want to meet and how much. I think it's up to teams, but tendency is now that people want to see each other after COVID, and it's we want to provide the space, of course, for that also.
Right.
Now, maybe a philosophical question. So
I love these.
Let's see how philosophical it will be in the end. Maybe it will be quite stupid, but okay. So you talk about evolutionary biology and the basic principles, survival of the fittest and adaptability and so on. And at the same time, one of the core values of your leadership style is psychological safety. How these two match?
Super interesting, super interesting. Of course, I mean, like if we think about the evolution and humans and what state of mind are we, of course, it's we need that safety feeling to be able to be open to learn, and I think that's really critical that we understand it, that if we want people to be say like, okay, I think this project should be stopped, are they safe enough to say that? And I think that's really critical that we have that mindset, that people really feel that that they can say that, like, okay, I learned, let's do the next thing. And that's critical. If you don't have that, people will keep going and the decisions doesn't come in the right place. So it's super critical. But how does it connect? Of course, I think for me, it's connect in a way that you have to understand we are still humans, and what really brings that mindset. And I think when I use the evolution, it always humbles me, because I understand that we are still pretty much the same as the humans. And that's, I think we have to understand also that you have to feel psychologically safe, but you also understand that the psychological work safety might come from the different things that in general your safety feeling. So of course you need a safe place to live, you need the food and all that, but then work is one of those things. So it's a bigger picture you have to think about. And then if you think about the adaptability, what we want. So as you said, it's like it's not the one biggest or the fastest who won or like are winning. I mean, it's the ones who can adapt to the ever-changing environment. And if you want to have that adaptability, you need to be willing to learn. And if you're not willing to learn or open to learning, you don't most likely feel safe. So they are, I think, really deeply connected to have that you can stop and say like, oh, this actually doesn't make sense. We should do this differently. And then you can have that, and you can have a resilience to do those decisions and say really difficult things. I mean, like it might be your creation of your all the passion and knowledge, and then you say like, oh, actually players didn't like it. I mean, like what? It's like they didn't like my creation. Yeah. It can be really, really emotional.
Well, I mean, in many ways, evolution is unforgiving.
Yes.
So psychological safety is a good tool for building like cohesiveness in the moment. But in terms of moving forward, developing, improving, and getting better, what's the the best way to think about it is what's the role of the leader in trying to connect the team to being a better version of themselves in the future?
I think that's it's of course many things, but I would say like providing the space, making sure that actually happens, and then I think leaders has of course role to be role models and making sure that we can't do of course everything like what everybody wants. I mean, like it's not possible, but with your limitations, what is the best you can do? If people wants to meet at the office, make the space to work for that, and if they want something else, I mean, like it's also like something we have to agree together and how we work and ways of working and how we do things and providing these discussions, because it has to be something we share as the whole organization, and then of course the team has to find their way of doing it, but the whole organization have to share the same thing, and I think that's where the leaders come in and really make sure that it's shared values and shared ways of doing, and then teams can adapt to that and find their ways to fit the organization.
I just wanted to shift gears.
Let's evolve.
Yeah. You also play the violin, right?
Oh my God. Really badly, but yes, you can call it playing.
We were just discussing previously, Mark has personal experience of violin playing as well. And I don't want you to draw any sort of philosophical lines between leadership and violin, but it's about learning, right?
Yes. Oh my God, painful way learning. I would
talk us through your...
It's about torturing others.
It's torturing yourself, because it's right there, and you hit that note. It's right there.
Yeah.
Talk us through your.
Oh my. So I would say that I'm in a point that my daughter don't call anybody to save her when she hears me playing. So I think at some point she was saying to me that, Mom, can you play when I'm not here? and I think that's, so I'm in a place that she's like, oh, that actually sounds reasonable. So I think I'm using her again as a judge, but I think for me, I haven't played that long. I have played now like maybe 6 years, I think, and it, for me, it comes from this adaptability. I always want to start new things that I can really challenge myself, and I think violin really did that for me. So well, I mean, like some people keep asking me like, oh, can you play the violin at the next company event or at the? I'm like, no. I mean, like, no, I'm not doing it, but maybe someday. But I love it. I think it's super challenging. It's like even like understanding the position of your hand and like your fingers are like, they don't move that way, and then you're like, oh my God, they should, and then you are like moving them. So I mean, like it's super. So I think I really started playing violin because I wanted to have a challenging thing to do, and I think that's what it is for me. But sure, there's connections also other ways, but I would say for me it was about like being humble to learn and kind of willing to take the challenge and accepting that you can be so bad in something, and I'm kind of still being fine with that. So I think it was more like more of a learning for me, to be honest. So.
What's the best advice you have got from your violin teacher?
There's quite many, but I think first she was really working with my hands to actually make them work. I think that was good, but I think like she's actually quite tough. I think she's not like you are doing well. It's like no, that's bad. I mean, I think the maybe best is that being really direct and giving the honest feedback, but then also supporting how you can grow from that. I think that's also like that giving the feedback, but also, of course, respectful way, and because you don't want to kill anybody's motivation at early. So it's super important. But I think also like guiding you through that, like, okay, this is not how it should be done, and so let's learn it, and this is step by step. So I would say baby steps, and not kind of seeing yourself in a stage playing like the hardest song ever, but actually understanding that it's a long journey. So I think baby steps is maybe the best learning.
For self-confidence, you could try air violin as well. It's much easier.
Oh, yeah.
It's Alexei's specialty. Right?
Exactly.
Or air guitar.
Air guitar. Anything air.
Air anything. That's also, I haven't done that, but maybe I should try that next. So might be less painful, I would say.
But you could do that for the corporate event.
Oh, that's
air
good.
violin.
Yes. And that's so good to kind of understand also like how your body develops. So I mean, like even doing the movements in a way, I think it can be really good. So there's a point in what you're saying here.
You're welcome.
Yes.
What about games? Do you play games yourself?
So more recently, I have been playing with my a lot of things I can play together with my daughter actually. So we during COVID times we actually played a lot of Just Dance, which is actually a Ubisoft game, and it was humbling me again, I would say. I was so bad. My daughter was really, really good. I had to say I played so much Guitar Hero that I got this...
the carpal tunnel.
Yeah. So I used to play so much, and I remember I was in one of the company and I was like, Celine, can you keep the stage for somebody else also, because I was playing
Guitar Hero.
We had like one room which was dedicated for Guitar Hero, and I was there like, who wants to play with me? Who wants to play? I'm like,
you will not defeat me. I am staying.
But yeah, so I don't touch that game anymore because
because if I pick it up, I may never put it down.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You actually asked about my playing habits, and I think that's a funny story. But yeah, I have quite many others. But as I said, I never was a person who was like, oh, I want to make games myself. Like I wasn't like, I always played, but I think it came really through my brother, and I come from the quite tiny place, so there really wasn't option who you play with. So hi to my brother, like fun times. But there was like, I was the only girl in the near neighborhood, and then I played what the older boys were playing, and it was usually like we read this micropitti, and we were copying the code and doing like tiny games, like really, really tiny and simple ones. And so I really kind of got used to it, but it even back then I never thought that okay, I want to do this. But then why I joined, actually it was actually totally by accident, and also hi to my back then boss. I'm like, thanks for hiring me, but I went to interview and I didn't know it was a video games company, to be honest. So
you were well prepared.
Yeah, I was well prepared, and exactly that's how I would call it. Yeah. And I went there. I was like, I thought it was a housing company because the name kind of was referring to that, and then I was like, no, it can't be. Like, there's people programming and there's all these game magazines out there. I was like, okay, this might be video games. But we had such a good conversation, and they actually offered me the job, I think, the same evening. And well, still I am here. So I think what really get me was the people. I think people were, like, it was a time that video games were like the most
wanted jobs, I would say. It wasn't like people didn't see the opportunity actually to make a business out of it. And then, of course, it has changed a lot after that. But I think the people, like, they were so passionate about it. They were really like, we want to make this, and the energy was great. And I think that's really what interested me and kept me there. So they were so much willing to do like these creations. And I think that's, for me, it's the same thing I see today. But I just want, my job is there to actually, can we make it in a healthy way? And can we make it in a way that people can keep doing it for years, and they can have their own life in also, and the private life.
On that journey, was there like a specific moment when you felt like, okay, now I'm a leader?
No, I don't think there was. I'm not planning that much, to be honest. I think I really am more like a person who thinks like, okay, I want to do this, and this is what I do, and it's not that much. What is the next step after that? I don't plan that much, to be honest. I might sound like I do, but I actually honestly don't. So it's quite honest answer. But I think at some point I really noticed that people come to me and they ask my advice and coaching, and I was like, I actually enjoy this. So I really saw that I saw the change on some teams and individuals. I was like, okay, I want to do this more. I want to learn more about this. I want to be better at it. So I think that was maybe slowly growing, but I don't think I never had that really that one moment I thought I'm a leader or whatnot. It was more like a different scale, and then you just start scaling that up, and at some point you're like, oh, now I have more people who I work with, but it has been maybe the longer process for me. Actually, first time I really thought about it was now that you ask it.
Well, yeah, that's great. I mean, do you think of yourself as a leader now?
Yes, I think my job is to actually. That's my job. That's how I see it, and I think that's also what I like doing. So, yeah, I think that's the word.
So there was
maybe
a moment.
I now do.
maybe this is it.
but yes, of course, I talk a lot about leadership, and that's of course a key thing what I do. So I think I do think I'm a leader in that sense, but I think it's a bit of everybody's job, to be honest. I think it's a when I talk with people, I think self-leadership and how you actually make sure that your team works and all that, we have that in so many different levels. So I think it's more like a supportive role in a way, that making sure things happen. So I'm not that much about the titles, and I think I have like the longest title at the moment because I do quite many things. But it's about like how you work with others, I would say. I think that's where I want to be, and that's where I am. So I'm really happy about that.
So your story kind of illustrates that it's not always everything about evolution. Sometimes things happen by accident as well, by chance, right? And good things as well. So you joined the industry, and then you decided to start your own company at some point as well. And today, what I understood, you talk quite a lot about industry in general, how things are developing and changing. Are there any specific things that you saw when you came into this industry that you understood that they need to be changed? There's something that, is not working well and things could be done better.
I think one of the moments definitely was when my daughter said to me that I was the only woman in the room. I think that was one of the moments. But I think also when I actually co-founded the company I was working with for many years, actually, I was about to have my daughter back then, and I was actually in a hospital when I signed the founding paper, where I actually did and signed the founding papers, so I remember that moment quite well. But I think that's where I was thinking like, okay, no one would hire me. I was about to get a baby. I was like, okay, why not to found the company then? And then there was some people who wanted to do that as well. So I think it was great. But I also thought that how can I do it in a way that it actually is something that I believe in, and I can, if something doesn't work, I need to face and blame just myself, and of course not just myself, but I mean like it's on me if I don't make it work. So I think I really wanted to see if I can co-found the company and make it healthy and all that, and can I create that environment that people are inspired. So it was quite important phase for me also. But I think when I actually now going back to your question about was there a moment that I thought that I am a leader, I actually had that moment that when I was offered the job at one of my previous jobs, and I was CEO for the one video games company. I was really going through quite personal thinking, like, is it about ego for me? And I think this can be 2 hours, 2 days discussion. But I think I went through quite a lot of thinking, like, why do I want to be a leader? Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to become a CEO or managing director or this? And I really wanted to make sure that I do it from the right place. And it's not about me. It's not about my ego. And it's super hard. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm still in that journey. But I read about that a lot. And I think it's. I hope all the leaders do that. It's not about me or my ego. End of the day, it's about the teams and the companies and things we are creating. So it's about that. But it makes me so humble when I think about that, because it's so easy to go in that track and then like, oh, there you are, leader.
Yeah.
It's about me or that, but it's not really. Of course, part of my job is to be visible in a way that I talk about these important topics. But it has to come from that place that I want to talk about the important topics, not about...
Yeah, and what's clear is that, like you said, you don't feel like that egocentric responsibility. It's actually more about helping the team adapt,
exactly.
evolve.
Exactly. But I think people have different approaches to this, and I totally, of course, that's fine, but that's personally for me was an important decision, because I was thinking like it's really hard to go back from that. So it's kind of, you have to make the right decision then. So that's where I actually was thinking about, like, do I want to do this job or not? And then of course all the other things, can I do it? How do I do it? Yeah, exactly. All that things were also on the table, of course.
Before you joined Ubisoft went through a very tough patch of having harassment claims and having some claims on toxic culture, etc. You still and you talk a lot about inclusion and psychological safety and so on. And even now when I read some commenting on blogs and so on, I see that this topic tends to come up in the discussion and commenting of people when they comment on Ubisoft as a company. What made you decide still to join Ubisoft?
For me, I think I'm not. You used the word like courage, I think earlier. I think I'm not afraid of the challenge, and I think for me it's also about like I saw that there's a great place to actually change things. Because when you start discussing about this, you have to be willing to do the change, and I was thinking like, okay, that's the place where I can change things, and I'm happy to say today that I think we are doing so much as Ubisoft, and I'm part of course that, and that's so important. We do it, but it's a long journey. And what I have been talking lately also about, it's not just one company. It's something that the whole industry has to do, and that we have to change our thinking, and it comes from everybody. It has to come from everybody, and that's critical for me. But I would say that I'm not scared of the challenge. I just want to make sure that I'm in a place where I can do what's right, and I believe that's where I am now. So
because I know that gaming companies in Finland, they hire a lot of foreigners. There's a lot of non-Finnish people working there. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking outside, and it's a terrible weather out there. It's one of the worst days ever.
I'm pretty sure that it doesn't matter when this episode is released. That's probably still true.
Yeah, might be. Maybe July, I'm hopeful. But
One thing is constant in Finland, it's bad weather. So what can you say to those people listening to our podcasts, like outside Finland, who are considering to come to Finland to work for a gaming company, like Ubisoft, for instance? Why would they do that?
No. There's hope. No, just but seriously, I think what I really see and hear people saying is that Finland in general, like we have clean air and nature and all that, but I think one thing really about Finland is of course that people really feel that work-life balance, and that's what I hear actually quite often, also from our studios. So, but also in the industry in general, that people come here and they really feel that they can be supported as a families also if they have one, and then the whole environment kind of is about that, I think, and then of course you have easy access to nature and the clean air and all that is really critical for some people. So I hope they don't come for the weather, because they will. Well, if they come for the bad weather, they might be happy. But if they come for the good one, they might be disappointed. But it's definitely that people feel like they can really support that psychological safety in general.
And there's always virtual reality out there. Right?
Yes, of course. Maybe that's why we are good at making games here, because of the weather. But yeah, I think it's really seen that how we think. But this is the thing about Finland, I would say, not just one company or one leader, but it's really about like we want to make sure that people have that well-being and work-life balance, and they are still there after 5 years or so on. And even if they have families or like really demanding hobbies or whatnot, I of course we want to make sure that that there's a right balance on that. How do you feel? You are not from Finland, so why
I came
are you
here
here?
for bad weather.
Oh, okay,
Precisely.
okay, yes.
Super happy.
yes, and you also.
I like to be depressed. Yeah, it's great.
But I have to say, there was this one morning last November, and I was thinking, why do I still live here? I was like, it was like windy and cold, and I was like, I should have learned in these years that maybe this won't change the weather. But I mean, like then there's of course those good days with the nice weather.
Every person, every winter has that same
Okay,
that same day. We have that
I'm
same
relieved
day.
that it's not just me. So it's
There are always these 2 weeks, right, in somewhere in the middle of the year, and when you kind of stop questioning yourself about
Exactly.
that, you go, this is great, but then except these 2 weeks, there's 50 other weeks.
do you know this saying like mummo lumessa, like grandma in the snow? And then you think how they are moving there. Like I think that's the picture in my head, like every time.
Do you have a game about that?
Well, not yet.
That would be a fantastic game.
I know.
That's a good one. Okay, Celine, thank you very much for your time. I think it's been really enlightening. It's been, it's good to hear the insights from the gaming industry and also your thoughts on leadership and not being a leader and staying true to yourself and picking the right discussion. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. This was a really interesting conversation and really pleasure to meet you all and talk about these important topics. So thank you.
And all the best.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Celine.